The first light of dawn stretched across the Wyoming plains as Mary Collins stepped onto the porch of her small cabin. The air was cool, carrying the scent of sagebrush and damp earth after a night of gentle rain. Once, mornings like this had filled her with hope. She and her husband, Thomas, had dreamed of raising children, growing their ranch, and growing old together beneath endless western skies. Those dreams had died 2 years earlier when Thomas was thrown from a frightened horse while repairing a fence. Ever since that terrible day, Mary's life had become a daily struggle. Thomas's older brother, Walter Collins, had wasted no time claiming control over the ranch. He insisted Thomas had owed him money, though Mary had never seen proof of any debt. Walter told everyone that until the debt was paid, Mary had no right to make decisions about the property. Most neighbors knew Walter was lying, but few dared challenge him. He was larger than most men, quick to anger, and had friends who benefited from looking the other way. Every morning Walter rode to Mary's cabin before sunrise. He barked orders, criticized her work, and demanded she labor from dawn until darkness. If she paused to catch her breath, he shoved her. If she questioned him, he struck her. Mary carried bruises beneath long sleeves and high collars, hiding the evidence from anyone who might ask questions she was too afraid to answer. One afternoon she struggled to repair a broken fence while carrying heavy posts by herself. Sweat covered her face despite the cool breeze. When one of the posts slipped from her tired hands, Walter exploded with rage. He stormed across the field, grabbed her arm, and slapped her hard enough to send her falling into the dirt. "You'll never finish anything," he growled. "You're nothing without this family." Mary slowly pushed herself onto her knees. Before she could answer, another voice echoed across the pasture. "That's enough." Walter turned to see a tall cowboy riding through the open gate. Dust followed the horse's steady stride. The rider wore a weathered brown hat, a faded blue shirt, and a calm expression that never changed. His name was Jack Harper, owner of one of the largest ranches in the valley. Jack had noticed Mary's situation for weeks while driving cattle nearby. Each day he witnessed Walter's cruelty from a distance, hoping someone closer to the family would intervene. No one ever did. Watching Walter strike Mary erased the last of his patience. Walter sneered as Jack dismounted. "This doesn't concern you." Jack's eyes never left Mary as she slowly stood. "It concerns anyone with a conscience." Walter stepped closer. "You looking for trouble?" Jack answered quietly. "No, but it seems trouble found me." Walter threw the first punch. Jack sidestepped easily. Years spent working cattle had made him fast despite his size. Walter swung again, but Jack caught his wrist and twisted it just enough to force him backward. One clean punch landed against Walter's jaw, knocking him into the mud. Jack didn't continue fighting. He simply stood between Walter and Mary. "If you touch her again," Jack said firmly, "you'll answer to me." Walter climbed to his feet, embarrassed more than injured. "This isn't over. It is for today," Jack replied. Walter mounted his horse and rode away, promising revenge with every angry glance over his shoulder. Mary looked at Jack with uncertain eyes. "You shouldn't have done that." "Why? He never forgets." Jack smiled faintly. "Neither do I." For the first time since Thomas died, someone had stood beside her instead of turning away. Over the next several days Jack found reasons to ride past Mary's cabin. Sometimes he brought fresh vegetables from his ranch. Other times he repaired loose boards or helped fix broken fences. He never acted as though she owed him anything. He simply helped because he believed it was the right thing to do. Mary struggled to trust such kindness. Every favor Walter had ever offered came with a price. Jack never asked for one. One evening, after finishing repairs on the barn roof, Jack accepted a cup of coffee on Mary's porch. They watched the sun sink behind distant hills while horses grazed quietly nearby. "You loved him very much," Jack said gently. Mary nodded. "Thomas was a good man." Jack remained silent. "I still talk to him sometimes," she admitted. "What do you tell him?" "That I'm trying not to give up." Jack stared across the valley before speaking. "I think he'd be proud that you haven't." Those simple words nearly brought tears to her eyes. Weeks passed, and the friendship between them grew stronger. The lonely silence surrounding Mary's cabin slowly disappeared. Laughter returned little by little. Even the neighbors noticed the change. Walter noticed too. His anger grew every time he saw Jack's horse tied outside Mary's home. One afternoon Walter gathered 2 rough men from a neighboring ranch and rode toward Mary's property. They found Jack repairing the front porch while Mary painted a new window frame. Walter climbed down from his horse. "I warned you to stay away." Jack calmly placed his hammer on the porch. "And I warned you not to touch her." Walter lunged forward with the other men close behind. The fight was quick but fierce. Jack had spent years handling wild horses and difficult cattle. He knew how to stay calm while others lost control. One by one the attackers found themselves lying in the dirt, bruised and humiliated. Several nearby ranchers witnessed everything. This time people didn't stay silent. They stepped forward. Old Mr. Jenkins spoke first. "We've watched Walter bully this widow long enough." Others nodded. Another neighbor admitted hearing Walter brag that Thomas never owed him a single dollar. Within days the truth spread throughout the valley. The county judge finally arrived after several ranchers signed sworn statements describing Walter's abuse and false claims over the property. Official records proved Thomas had fully owned the ranch before his death. Every lie Walter told collapsed at once. The judge ruled that Mary was the rightful owner of every acre. Walter was ordered to leave immediately and face charges for assault and fraud. As deputies escorted him away, he glared at Mary. She met his eyes without fear. For the first time, he looked away first. Life changed slowly after that. Mary repaired the ranch with help from neighbors who regretted staying silent for so long. They rebuilt fences, planted crops, and restored the old barn Thomas had always wanted to expand. Jack continued visiting, though now he came simply to share meals, fix whatever needed fixing, and enjoy evenings beneath the stars. Months later, during the town's annual harvest dance, Jack asked Mary for the first dance. "I haven't danced since Thomas," she whispered. "You don't have to," she smiled. "I think it's time." They moved carefully across the wooden floor while neighbors watched with warm smiles. No one saw pity anymore. They saw hope. As winter approached, Jack rode to Mary's cabin carrying a small wooden box. Inside rested a simple gold ring. "I can't replace the life you lost," he said softly. "But I'd be honored to build a new one with you." Mary looked at the ring before raising her eyes to his. "For a long time, I believed my story ended the day Thomas died." Jack gently took her hand. "And now, I think it was only waiting for a new chapter." With tears shining in her eyes, she whispered the word that changed both their lives. Yes. Their wedding took place beneath a wide cottonwood tree overlooking the valley. Friends, neighbors, and ranch families gathered together. Even those who once stayed silent came to celebrate, grateful for a second chance to do what was right. Mary walked toward Jack wearing a simple cream-colored dress she had sewn herself. There were no expensive decorations, no grand ceremony, only honest people witnessing two faithful hearts choosing one another. After they exchanged vows, Jack looked at Mary and smiled. "No one will ever raise a hand against you again." She believed him. Years later, travelers passing through the valley often stopped at the Harper Ranch. They were welcomed with warm meals, fresh coffee, and stories shared beside the fireplace. Few knew everything Mary had endured before finding peace. They simply saw a husband and wife whose quiet kindness reached everyone who crossed their path. Whenever young couples asked them the secret to a lasting marriage, Jack always smiled before answering. Real strength isn't measured by how hard a man can fight. It's measured by who he chooses to protect. Mary would gently squeeze his hand, knowing those words were not spoken for applause but from experience. The scars of her past never completely disappeared, but they no longer defined her future. Love had not erased her pain. It had given her the courage to live beyond it. And in the wide open country where she had once felt completely alone, Mary finally found the home, safety, and family she thought she had lost forever.